the assessments aligned to the CCGPS and make recommendations for readiness indicators, additional cut scores, if you will, to provide instructional feedback. So we know that we assessed the Common Core, and we actually did very well. The tests actually were more difficult this spring. All the data that we have, even though students did better, the tests were actually more difficult. But teachers raised the rigor of what they were doing in classroom, and we saw benefits from that. So these readiness indicators are there to provide a coherent system across grades 3 through 8 to say this is where we need to be shooting for. We need to start ramping up the rigor and getting kids not to just 800, but to a point above 800 to be ready for what's coming in 14-15. And these indicators are being provided for instructional planning and decision making. So your accountability, promotion, and retention is going to be tied to the 800 and 850. But this is instructional feedback. So this is another set of indicators just to say, okay, for instructional planning purposes, let's move beyond 800 and let's take a look. So we're trying to send a clear signal of where we need to start moving students towards relative to the expectations, the higher expectations in the curriculum. We know that we have to increase rigor. We know that what is coming, regardless of what it is in 14-15, will be different. The rigor will be there. We need to not go in with blinders. We need to start preparing and planning accordingly. But again, instructional planning purposes. So everybody understands your accountability is going to stay at 800 and 815. Everybody understands that, right? So what we've done, have you all seen what we call them the aggregations that we post on our website? Last week we released the EOCT, and we did the system aggregations and the school aggregations. They're Excel spreadsheets, and it has the list of systems and the percent of kids that fall into each performance category, and then it has the schools as well. So what you're going to get is an Excel spreadsheet, essentially, and it's going to tell you the percent of kids at the state, at your district, and for each of your schools that fell in each of these three categories. Okay? We will tell you what the scale score is that is the cut for on track, and it's going to be above 800. So let's just say for grade 5 reading, it's 825. And again, I'm just pulling that out. I don't know whether it's 825 or not. But let's just say it is. That does mean you're going to have kids that met according to the GPS expectations of 800, but according to this readiness indicator, need additional support. We know that, don't we? We do know that. So again, that's there aren't parent reports coming, but this is for instructional planning. So you're going to get these spreadsheets that tell you kind of where the state is for each grade and content area of reading, English, and math, right? Not science and social studies, because those are still GPS. And where we are. We're going to have kids that exceeded but are now on track. There's going to be a little disconnect there. But again, it's about raising the rigor. The commendable cut is very high. It is a high cut. On track does not mean the student will be successful in the next level. It means they're on track to be. I can't guarantee you that. But we believe with everything that we know that these students should be positioned well to be successful if they keep it up. So again, you're going to get a spreadsheet with the system, district, and school. We're also going to disaggregate it by key subgroups. Now we're going to use the test file to do that, because everything we do in testing is from the test file, not matched to student record. So it's whatever was in your student information at the time you uploaded for pre-ID labels, or whatever was bubbled on that answer document. You know that that's not necessarily the cleanest of data, right? So whenever we produce any formal accountability or the report card, we always use the assessment file matched to student record, which is the official. And there's a lot of cleanup that goes on with that. Here, it's just whatever you sent us is what you're going to get back. But you will get, and it's what you get on your printed reports as well for the CRCT and EOCT. So it's whatever was bubbled for that student. But you're going to get that level of information. We have no intention of releasing this publicly, so it's going to be sent to your system test coordinator through the portal. But it is a report that we have provided, so it is highly likely that we will be receiving open records requests for it. So I just want to be honest with you, and you know that we have to prepare, but there's no intention of advertising this out. And again, we'll give you, for each grade and content area, we'll give you what that scale score is that sets that threshold for that performance level. And there'll be two. There'll be a threshold for on track and a threshold for commendable. Any questions about that? Within the next couple of weeks. We are expecting to actually get the files at the end of this week or first of next week. We need to do our QC, and we need to, I want to schedule a couple of webinars to walk people through everything, but within the next couple of weeks. We want you to have it before school opens, which I know for some of you is imminent, right? So that you can have that feedback for instructional planning. Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am. No, CRCTM will not have readiness indicators. It's just the CRCT. CRCTM is going away. Everybody is aware of that. Everyone should know when. This is the last year. So 13-14 is the last year of the CRCTM. Students that have achieved basic proficiency for 2 years have to be put back on the CRCT. We got to get them back, because in 14-15, and the U.S. Department of Education has said they're no longer going to allow alternate assessments based on modified achievement standards. So this year is the last year for the CRCTM. Okay, other questions? Yes, ma'am. The readiness indicators? Okay, so Gray is asking if we're going to get the readiness indicators up on the LDS. That is something we certainly can work with the IT division to do. Absolutely. And I think it's going to have to be a new set of rosters, because you're going to want the 800 and 850 and then these new readiness indicators. Yes. For the readiness indicators, again, no, you won't. Well, we will tell you what the cut is, so that you can compare. If a kid, if 825 is grade is the cut for on track for 5th grade reading, then you can look at the student score and you can tell what performance level. But you won't get individual student level. No. You'll get the aggregations, and then you'll be aware of what those expectations are so that they can be applied to individual students. Now, what we can do is work with IT to have that embedded within the LDS, so you can access it there. And I'm happy to commit IT. I'm sure they're thrilled about that, to do that. But, you know, obviously, I have to make sure that they can do that before. Yes? Okay, I would say probably not, because, and Pam's here, she can talk about that. The question was, will the EIP and the REP checklist or it be changed? Probably not, because all student level accountability, promotion, and retention, school accountability is still on 800, 850. But now you could do something locally to get those kids the additional support that they need, and we would encourage that. Pam, would you agree with that? Okay, she says she would agree with that. Okay, other questions? Yes? that has been released. System, about 2 weeks ago, system superintendents were notified, and system test coordinators were notified of the systems and schools that were selected. And it's just about everyone. We're equal opportunity troublemakers. And so it's about 160. And what we're doing, again, for phase 2, we are making every effort not to sample the same school twice. Okay? So I can't say that as a system you get a pass for phase 2, but it would be a different group of schools that will be sampled. We made every effort trying to keep everything representative of the state. No school should have to test more than 90 students unless you're a school, and there are several schools that we've asked to do 2 content areas because to achieve that representative sample for each grade and content area that we're building, we had to do that. But again, no more than an hour is going to be needed to complete that pilot. So we're really trying to make it as manageable as possible. The pilot will be administered on the online assessment system, but we will preload everything. So it's not like you're going to have to load everything up. We're going to preload, and you'll have logins and be ready to roll. We will work with you as best as we can. I've already gotten a couple of, gosh, there's so much going on, but we really need you and your kids to build these resources that hopefully you will find beneficial. Again, that first phase is going to be released in January. And I feel like I'm up here rambling, so I'm going to say thank you very much. And you know how to contact me if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I told you she was Miss Georgia Assessment. You know, when you come to a session like this, you have to start thinking about and planning how you're going to get this information back to your district and back all the way down to the teacher level. And that's a real challenge, especially for large districts, is how do I get this information all the way down to the teacher level and to all of the principals. So I just want you to take about 5 minutes. Most of you are sitting with your district team members, and if you're not, just do it independently. What are you going to do with this when you get back? How are you going to develop some professional learning communities? How are you going to develop a professional learning community for your principals for this particular instructional FIP, for the formative instructional practices? How are you going to do that and get this all the way back down to your teacher? So we're going to give you about 5 minutes just to talk about that.